So let's get it in. So there's some interesting things that I'm hearing regarding Street Fighter 6, right? So let's get into it. Now, the first thing that I want to share with y'all regarding Street Fighter 6 is that the first trailer that they showed when they had Ryu there and his like chest is extra wide and stuff like that, that was not CGI. That was not CGI. That was an actual real-time render, a target render of what the graphics of Street Fighter 6 is supposed to look like. It's supposed to really be more realistic this time around. Still with that cartoony feel, but much more real, much more realistic, much more realism. And there's a reason for this, and we're going to get into that later. But that's the first thing. The graphical detail of Street Fighter 6 on what we saw was an actual real-time render of what the target game is supposed to look like in action when you play it. So that right there is incredible. And if you don't remember how it looked, you should go back and look at that trailer. That's the first thing I want to share with y'all. Second thing I want to share with y'all regarding Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 is supposed to have a RPG-like story mode. Like the metaverse of Street Fighter. And this right here is supposed to help grow the esports scene in the business side of esports, in the business side of Street Fighter overall as a whole. So this right here is very interesting because when you look at Injustice 2 and Mortal Kombat, how they have, you know, after every match you get items and you level up and things of that nature, Street Fighter 6 is supposed to have its own metaverse style of story where you could, you know, walk around, get this, buy that and stuff like that. It's supposed to be like a more open adventure in terms of the story mode. And it's supposed to be RPG like and stuff like that. Now this is very interesting considering what we've seen in other games, but in the case of esports and growing the players in esports, this is something that they feel will bring more social and more community together if Street Fighter had its own metaverse that more people can come and join and be a part of and be more social, considering the next wave of how we are experiencing gaming content and just technology overall. So Street Fighter 6 is supposed to have an RPG-like feel to its story mode and even possibly a metaverse around that. So that right there is the second thing I wanted to share with y'all. The third thing I want to share with y'all is Street Fighter 6 is supposed to feature 2v2 and 3v3 gameplay modes. Now, what's interesting about this is if you remember the Street Fighter League, they had 3v3. And if you also remember Street Fighter Cross Tekken, they had that feature where you could tag a person in. So you got 4 players, and I got my 2 versus your 2. You could tag me in, I could tag you in, and we could all battle together. That right there was dope. So it seems like they going back to that. But once again, these modes is supposed to play a major role in some of the new ways they want to have content created in the world of esports and the FGC overall. So the game itself is going to be more than just a game, but it's also going to be a platform to help go into the next generation of how esports is going to be done in terms of that business model. You understand what I'm saying? So Street Fighter 6 is supposed to have 2v2 and 3v3 options and stuff like that. So that right there is very interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Now, another thing, the fourth thing I want to talk to y'all about with Street Fighter 6 is this right here. I'm still like on the fence about it. So here's what we're going to do. What I'm about to tell y'all right now regarding Street Fighter 6, like the moment I put this out, I'm waiting for Ed Boon to say something. If Ed Boon say something about this, then we know, you know, if it's real or not. You know what I'm saying? Immediately. But if he don't say anything about this, then keep paying attention. But Street Fighter 6 is supposed to feature its first ever Mortal Kombat character. It's supposed to feature its first ever Mortal Kombat character. Crazy. So now let's talk about this. So when I told y'all earlier in terms of the game supposed to be targeting more realism in terms of the look and stuff like that, the game itself is supposed to have progressive damage, bruises, things of that nature. So just by looking at the game and looking at the characters, you could tell how damaged they are just by the look at them, the cosmetics, the aesthetic of it. You know what I'm saying? So My thing is, this all starts to kind of line up. Now this is out, it's live. Talk about it. And you know how Ed Boon is. You know what I'm saying? Ed Boon don't play no games. So if this ain't real, he'll come out and shut it down immediately. For what I've been hearing, for the first time ever, at some point with Street Fighter 6, it's supposed to feature its first ever Mortal Kombat character. And to my knowledge, this is something to begin testing the waters on what that relationship could look like if we ever get a full game, and if Capcom ever allow the Mortal Kombat characters to do fatalities to the Street Fighter characters. That's a whole nother conversation. But as of right now, in terms of a first step towards something that we wanted to happen since forever, Street Fighter 6 could be the game, and Capcom could be doing the deal that finally brings this to fruition out of all these years. But yes, Street Fighter 6 is supposed to feature its first ever Mortal Kombat character, at some point. I'm not saying it's launching. I'm not saying DLC, whatever it is, however they do it is how they do it. All I know is that this is something that has been in discussion for a while. And even years ago, when I interviewed Ed Boon about things like that, even when I spoke to what's her name, Harada from Tekken, about Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, just from a fan service standpoint, when I spoke to them directly, they never said no. Ed Boon always said, hey, it's up to Capcom. We would love to do it. So Ed Boon is down for that. You know what I'm saying? When I spoke to Harada as a fan, he would love to see it, and he's open to those opportunities as well with his game with Tekken. So we'll see. You know what I mean? But that's something that's huge if we get a chance to see that come to fruition. And the last thing I want to say is Street Fighter 6 is supposed to have a create your own fighting style. Now, this is how deep this goes. So another element of this is supposed to help grow the esports business and the participants in terms of uploading and downloading their style of fighter. So I'll give you an example. Right now, when you look at the FGC, if you look at Justin Wong, if you look at Smug, if you look at Daigo, if you look at I'm about to say CM Punk, if you look at Punk and stuff like that, these great fighters, you know what I'm saying, in the FGC, these great gamers, right? So what if they was able to create their own fighting style in Street Fighter 6, where you got a mix of Daslam and a mix of Akuma with a mix, of Armika, Armika, something like that, with a mix, of Chun-Li, like, and you able to put these styles together to really make the fighter that you love, like with all the stuff that you wanted, and have that fighter compete in esports, have that fighter compete at Combo Breaker, Evo, CEO, and all these other places. And this is your fighter. And not only that, having the opportunity to upload that fighter so fans can download your actual fighter with your name or whatever name you want to give it, and they can practice and learn how to play literally your style. You understand what I'm saying? Like a lot of these modes and new things that's going to be coming to these games, especially with the technology that they have now, is all to set up the games to be more than just a game, but also a platform for growth for the world of esports and things, outside of just sitting at home playing a game. So think about it from a standpoint of like Fortnite. Fortnite isn't just a game you play. It's a platform. Fortnite is launching careers. You understand what I'm saying? So this is a different situation. So I'm just telling y'all right now, Street Fighter 6, the way it seems to be developing right now, this is different. Like, they look like they going into a whole nother avenue of how they wanted to develop the game because of the business climate that's going on right now. You know what I mean? So many free-to-play games, so many people buying this and buying that. So you know they're going to build the game with these things in mind. So get ready. Street Fighter 6, yo, the way it sounds so far, from what I'm hearing, is like it's going to be incredible. But the graphics, if the graphics is really like what we saw in that trailer, and that's the target render, and that's not CGI, oh my gosh, this will be the most realistic looking Street Fighter we've ever seen.